Gonzalo Lira, an American journalist, has just died in a Ukrainian jail, even though we're continually told that a free press is vital. And Julian Assange, also a journalist, remains in a British jail. So what are our principles when it comes to a free and independent press? Is it some freedom is more important than others? Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining us on our voyage to truth and freedom. Firstly, we want to honour Gonzalo Lira and send our condolences to those directly affected by his death in jail in the Ukraine that he predicted would happen because he was reporting, broadly speaking, against the Ukrainian regime. If you're a Ukrainian person, got total respect for you. But the reason this is sort of agitating for us is because we're told continually that independent journalism is in itself valuable and free press is in itself valuable, not just journalism that happens to amplify and support the message of the dominator culture. So that's why we're highlighting this sad death. Remember, we make exclusive videos like these every week, and we would love you to support our work by clicking the link in the description and joining us where we make additional content and give you early access to content. So here's Tucker Carlson's post about Gonzalo Lira. Gonzalo Lira Sr. says his son has died at 55 in a Ukrainian prison where he's being held for the crime of criticizing the Zelensky and Biden governments. Gonzalo Lira was an American citizen, but the Biden administration clearly supported his imprisonment and torture. Several weeks ago, we spoke to his father, who predicted his son would be killed. And of course, Gonzalo Lira himself predicted he would be killed. This story highlights the galling hypocrisy of the Biden administration. Here is Joe Biden at the White House press correspondents' dinner, an occasion where the establishment and another part of the establishment, essentially the legacy media, josh one another about freedom. And Biden here makes clear what the values of a free press are. But if you're anything like me, you know already you don't have a free press. You have a propagandist unit, either corporate or state, that amplifies and normalizes the message of the powerful and shuts down dissent and even joins the establishment in attacking dissenting voices. Will they be reporting, for example, on the death of Gonzalo Lira? What are they doing now when it comes to reporting on Julian Assange, who may yet be extradited to the United States of America, essentially for journalism, for publishing true information that was harmful to the interests of the state? Firstly, he was accused falsely, it appears, of sexual assault. Then he was imprisoned without trial in Belmarsh. He has a hearing coming up soon. The information about that is in the video. If you can support Julian in any way, please do. Here's the public face of Joe Biden and his values. And sadly, Gonzalo Lira's death is the actuality of his values.
Our message is this: journalism is not a crime. Evan and Austin should be released immediately, along with every other American held hostage or wrongfully detained abroad.
As long as what they report on is in alignment with our principles. I don't mean Edward Snowden or Julian Assange or Gonzalo Lira, God rest his soul. I mean journalists that are willing to say stuff like, go in your house when we tell you to go in your house, fund a war when we tell you to fund a war, shut your mouth when we tell you to shut your mouth. Those are the journalists we like. Basically you guys, gathered around me now. No, you're beautiful. No, you're beautiful. Here's Gonzalo Lira predicting that he will indeed die in jail. Another piece of accurate journalism from Gonzalo Lira, as it appears.
The start of the genesis of this whole situation is because I had an opinion that went against the narrative. And that's why I went to prison. And that's why, if I'm arrested again, I will die in prison. So I ask you, please, as many people as possible. The American State Department knows exactly who I am and the situation I'm currently involved in. And they know the fate that awaits me. They know it.
Not one single legacy media outlet has covered this story. What does this tell you? What do they report on? What stories do they amplify? And sometimes, I mean, a personal experience to tell you, actually create stories in order, I believe, to participate with the state in the amplification of certain narratives and the shutting down of other narratives. Wouldn't you think that if you were a journalist working at the New York Times or some high-profile fancy newspaper, that you would report on the death of a committed foreign correspondent dying in prison in suspicious circumstances? You know, when Jamal Khashoggi lost his life, tragically, awfully, brutally, it was necessarily and quite rightly a national story. What's going on in this occasion?
You know, they have that saying that, I forget the wording exactly. You know, I'm a little stressed out, as you can imagine. But they have that saying that people are fundamentally good, but for evil to triumph, all you need is the indifference of good people. Please don't be indifferent to my fate. I ask you this very humbly. Please recognize that, well, the literal death that awaits me if this doesn't work out.
Well, it's too late for Gonzalo Lira. Condolences to his family. It's not too late for Julian Assange. You can support Julian Assange, who has a hearing on the 20th and 21st of February. There's a link in the description. You can attend the Royal Courts of Justice at the Strand to participate in the protests to demand that he is given a fair trial. Ultimately, he should be released, shouldn't he? I mean, what's he actually done other than report unfavorably against the interests of some very, very powerful institutions, notably the American military-industrial complex. Here's Glenn Greenwald on the Gonzalo Lira story. Neither Biden nor his top officials ever once uttered a word about Gonzalo Lira, despite his being an American imprisoned by Ukraine for speaking out and despite the most unhinged Ukrainians threatening Lira's life. Gonzalo Lira's journalism in Ukraine highlighted some issues that were problematic for the United States and their ongoing financial support for the Ukraine. Of course, I have great deal of respect for Ukrainian people, but he was reporting on a lack of democracy in Ukraine, corruption in Ukraine, anti-democratic practices in Ukraine, weird deals between Ukraine and BlackRock, plans to introduce weird sort of new order measures in Ukraine subsequent to any victory in a war. And it's difficult to have that kind of information out there if you're on the TV every day saying, we need to send money to Ukraine. We're defending democracy is what we do. It's nothing to do with our interests. It's nothing to do with selling weapons. It's about democracy. If you've got an American journalist in Ukraine saying, hold on a minute, I'm not sure that these values are being practiced in quite the manner. And now, of course, we have people within Zelensky's cabinet, and I'm sure it was Gonzalo Lira's reporting that brought this to the forefront of my mind, saying, I'm not sure that we're handling this in the right way. There's a lot of corruption, money's going missing. But you've got the former heavyweight champion, Klitschko, mayor of Kiev, saying that he don't trust Zelensky. So, again, it's complicated. That's why you can't go around censoring and shutting down important information. And you certainly should respect the rights of journalists, particularly if you disagree with them, it could be argued. Not now for Gonzalo Lira, because he's died in jail as he and his father predicted, and as Joe Biden failed to mention, and as the legacy media refused to report on. So, of course, the plight of journalists held across the world, whether that's in Russia that are anti-Russia, or in America that are anti-America, or journalists or reporters anywhere in the world that are being attacked by establishment interests, all offer the same principles and support. And there is no more famous case than that of Julian Assange. The only presidential candidate that's unequivocally said that they will pardon Julian Assange and Edward Snowden is RFK. Doesn't that alone make him stand head and shoulders above many of his rivals? Let me know in the chat.
As part of that campaign, I'm going to give a civics lesson to the American public by pardoning Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. My first day in office. And the same day, I'm going to sign an executive order ordering all federal employees, including the FBI and the CIA, to refrain from colluding or communicating with media or social media companies to censor American political speech.
So there you go. That's another reason to support Bobby Kennedy right there. And indeed to support Julian Assange. Remember, Julian Assange has a hearing on the 20th and 21st of February at the Royal Courts of Justice. There's a website showing you how you can donate to support his campaign and his family. The link is in the description. So support that campaign in any way you can. And let's remember together the life and death of Gonzalo Lira, what it represents, what his life represented, and what it means when journalists are allowed to either rot in jail or die in jail without the support of their nation or us as the public. If you can, please stay free.
Understand what's going on.